Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday. I'm Julie Barrett, and you are joining me for my weekly live stream. Decided to come on today, even though we've got a holiday weekend coming up. So I don't know how many people will be joining me today, but we've got a full live stream today. So good stuff happening, some crazy stuff happening. So we're going to chat about it all. Congress just passed the one big beautiful bill. So we are going to chat about that today, the good, the bad, the ugly. I see Mary's here in the chat. Good to see you, Mary. Mary is on our CLA leadership team, and she will be in the chat to chat with y'all. And perhaps a couple of our other leaders will be here today. I'm not sure. With the holiday weekend, I don't know who's going to show up. So kind of just going to give this a few minutes before I start rolling into our discussions for the day. If you're on with us, please let us know where you're watching from. And if you've got any questions, feel free to ask your questions in the chat. If there are questions for anyone of our team that's in the chat, you can just chat amongst yourselves in the chat. If you have a question specifically for me, maybe just tag me in that so it stands out for me as we get rolling. And last week there were a lot of comments in the chat that y'all were just chatting amongst yourself, which I love. That is great. But if you have something specifically that you want me to address, please let me know. I see Joy is here and Evelyn. Hey, Evelyn, it's so nice to see you again. Anybody have exciting plans for the 4th of July? I tend to not want to go out to places on the 4th of July just because it's so chaotic. And anywhere you go, like to watch a fireworks display or something like that, it is like traffic getting in and traffic getting out is horrendous. Here in Florida, we live near the most amazing beach in the country, Siesta Key Beach, which, of course, on a holiday weekend is packed. And so the beach will be packed really early tomorrow morning. And then they'll do fireworks tomorrow evening. And then it'll be really difficult to get off the island after the fireworks display. So we are not going to touch that. We will just hang out at home and maybe hang out with some of our neighbors. So curious what you guys are doing. Do you go to fireworks displays? I know I've gone a couple times when my kids were little and I would round up all 4 kids and we'd go out to these fireworks displays. And it was just such a pain getting out and getting home, but the kids loved it. And so it was worth it for that. But now that they're older and I'm usually in bed, honestly, before the fireworks start. So anyway, let's get rolling. Let's get right into this stuff. It is kind of a Friday for all of us. So we probably all want to get on with our weekends. So let's dive right into the one big, beautiful bill that was passed by Congress today. There's so much drama in politics. It's really quite annoying. It would be great if these people could just get down to the business of governing our country and our states, but there's so much drama involved. There's really so much corruption involved as well, and it's hard to determine what's the straight story. I really have a difficult time with that. And one of the things that I really had a difficult time with is, I think the term gaslighting gets overused, but I don't think that a lot of politicians were really forthcoming about the one big beautiful bill. Think back to, what was it, 2023, when Republicans just got the majority after the Democrats had it for, I think, like 4 years. And the Republicans all talked about having single bills for different issues instead of having this one big omnibus bill that had all this garbage piled into it, a bill that was so big that people didn't have the time to read it and to know everything that was in it. Those same people that were advocating for these separate pieces of legislation were the same ones that have been cheering for the last couple of months about the one big beautiful bill. And I can't reconcile that. Like 2 years ago, you were talking about how we needed to have separate bills, and now you're just fine with this huge, I forget what it was, like 1,800 pages or something like that, this huge bill. And, I think the bottom line with the bill is it takes us into much greater debt than we are now. And we all, I think, agree that that is a problem. The national debt is a huge problem. And we keep, I don't know what the point is of having a debt ceiling if we just continue to raise it when we want to, which seems like we want to just about every year or two. And so I don't know what the answer is to bringing this spending down. I was really optimistic that bringing in Elon and having this Doge thing, I was really optimistic that that was going to take off and actually make a difference. And I think it did. I don't think it did nothing. I think it did make a difference, and there were definitely cuts to a lot of programs and a lot of unnecessary spending. But I think that I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but I think a lot of Americans really had their hopes up about how bringing Elon and really having this focus on waste and government efficiency, that we would see something different in this one big beautiful bill than what we saw. And I think the fallout with Elon leaving the White House and leaving the Doge effort really speaks volumes. And I think it really should indicate to all of us Americans just how deep and dirty the swamp really is. So, one of the people that I really kind of trust as far as the information about what's in the bill is Representative Thomas Massey from Kentucky. And a lot of people, he's getting a bad rap from a lot of the MAGA people for, he's very consistent. He's very fiscally conservative, and he's always voted no on these things. And he explains why he votes no on them. And so because he can't be pushed around, people will say, well, he's not MAGA and he's a rhino. And I don't think that at all. I don't think Massey is a rhino at all. I think he's very principled. And I think that he has, his reasons for his no vote. And I tend to agree with him. And I don't think that Massey's reason for his no vote is anywhere near the same as the reason all the Democrats voted no. And I don't like to see Trump and a lot of the MAGA people saying that Massey needs to be primaried and Massey needs to go. I think it's fair to say that his constituents really love him, and conservatives across the country really love and support him. And I think he's done fairly well with his donations during this time because of his consistency and his inability to be sort of pulled one way or the other by the establishment or, any kind of corrupt politicians and lobbyists and special interest groups. And I don't know who exactly is, pulls the purse strings. I don't know who, not pulls the purse strings. I can't even say it. I don't know who is, pulling the puppet strings and pulling these people one way or another. But I think it's fair to say that that's exactly what's happening. And it was kind of, get on board with this or get out. So I listened to Thomas Massey on these types of issues. I really like Daniel Horowitz, whose podcast is called The Conservative Review. He is really great on pretty much all policy issues, and he really makes it make sense to regular citizens. So Daniel Horowitz is a good one to follow on social media and listen to his podcast. The other congressman I really like for these kinds of issues is Chip Roy. Now, Chip was a no until today. He did vote yes. And I'm going to share with you what he posted on X, his statement about his yes vote, because I thought it really broke down some of the wins that caused him to vote yes, that I thought, we all might be able to relate to or appreciate. I don't know. I think, I don't know why he would change his vote to yes. I think, if his statement is correct, maybe, but I think there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, so much political shenanigans, for lack of a better word, that these people kind of get forced into different votes. So, I wanted to, hey, TZ, good to see you. Hey, Victor, good to see you as well. Thanks you guys for joining us today. We've got Joy and Mary from our leadership team in the chat with you all. Speaking of drama, and I've been really careful not to retweet her on X because I don't want to boost her engagement. But Representative Nancy Mace, where is she? I think she's maybe from North Carolina or South Carolina, one of the Carolinas, I believe. I truly believe she has narcissistic personality disorder, but she did this really weird, like social media influencer thing in her pajamas. She rented a luxury van with she had it she clearly had all her staff with her. She clearly had a driver. She's riding in the back of the van in her pajamas, and they're stopping at Waffle House and they're doing all these things, and she's basically vlogging the whole adventure from, her wherever she's from in the Carolinas to DC to do this vote, and she's making this big thing about it. And it's so unserious. Like, I look at these positions that these elected people hold, and I see this as you have a very serious job, and you have a very unique opportunity and a responsibility to your constituents to take this job seriously. You are not social media influencers. You are, not OnlyFans people. Please just go there, put your head down, do the work for the people instead of, doing this engagement farming stuff. So that drama was annoying, and I hope that she will get primaried and they'll get her out of there, because it would be nice to have a serious person. This is something that I'm seeing a lot of from many of the elected females in Washington, D.C. Not so much on a local level, but definitely in DC. And it's unfortunate, I think, because it'd be great if they could go there and do their jobs and be serious about it. In fact, a couple people on X were sharing pictures of some of the Democrat legislators here in Florida went today to visit Alligator Alcatraz, and they're wearing mosquito nets, which is completely unnecessary. But it's like, how do you laugh at these people when we have pajama lady Nancy Mace acting like a social media influencer rather than a congresswoman? I mean, on both sides of the aisle, we have unserious people, and it's pretty sad for our it's pretty sad for our country. So I would like to see them be a little more serious. I'm going to look in the chat because I see TJ. Do you follow ShiftWA? They do a daily update on the mess that is Washington State Democrat Party. I don't. They did an article on me maybe back in 2022, and that was really nice. They tend to disagree with me because I'm a little too conservative for their liking, but they do cover the issues that they cover very well. Conservative Ladies does a lot more with the social and cultural issues, like the life issue, and what's going on in schools and the indoctrination of students and those kinds of things. They tend to do much better, in the taxes business, some of the other things. So, but they do good work. Congratulations on Florida now building Washington State ferries. It's the first time in history that Washington State ferries will not be built in Washington. I think that's actually really funny. And I commented on somebody's post on X because thank you, Bob Ferguson, for stimulating the Florida economy. It's kind of funny that a state that I once lived where we decided we're not going to pay taxes to fund this government any longer. Now we're in Florida, and the government that I used to be with is paying a company in Florida to build their ferries. And so our economy it's just ironic. Anyway, it's too bad for Washington. And it's really sad that you have such bad elected officials that are that are really driving the state into the ground. And, it was for me when I didn't sit through it, but being engaged in the 2022 session and really seeing how often the Republicans went along with the Democrats was really what made me realize, like, hey, if Washington were to get a Republican majority, it wouldn't look that different. I mean, it'd look better, of course, than it does now, but they're in so many ways, they are on board with the legislation. There's a lot of bipartisanship, and I just don't see that with Republicans gaining any kind of control in Washington state that things would look a lot differently. But I don't see that happening, at least not in the next 10 to 20, 30, 40 years. I know I say this all the time, but I think that Washington will have to fully collapse and then be rebuilt. I think the whole West Coast is going to, and it's a shame because it's amazing, for so many reasons. But the landscape, that you've got the Pacific Ocean, and in Washington you've got Puget Sound, and you've got all these lakes, and you've got the mountains, and really there's nothing like it. It's quite spectacular, and so it's really sad. But of course, the enemy wants the most beautiful things that God has made, so we shouldn't be surprised. Okay, I'm gonna share with you. Oh, and did you guys see that Hakeem Jeffries spoke on the House floor for 8.5 hours today? I think it was 8 hours and 36 minutes. I was kind of popping in and out of YouTube, watching the live stream, and he was just always there every time I checked back. And it was one section I watched was when he was talking about the defunding of Planned Parenthood. And what the Democrats do so well is they make the Republicans look like these evil monsters that want everybody to starve and die. And we just don't have, like, they're so good with their messaging. I mean, they're so wrong, but they're effective with their wrong messaging. And so the public hears these things on their mainstream media. And, even here in Florida, most of the media outlets take a leftist spin on everything. And so if that's what you're consuming because you don't know better and you don't care enough to take the time to go figure out, is this really true? If you're consuming this, I mean, they are doing a great job of selling out Republicans like they are the devil. And it's very interesting. And so another reason why I wish Pajama Lady could act serious, because you've got these goons on the Democrat side that are making us look so evil, and then we've got people look at us and we've got Pajama Lady. So okay, let's take a look at Chip Roy's statement on the One Big Beautiful Bill. So he's got sort of his intro here, and for the last 6 months, the caucus delivered. So I want to get into his bullet points here. You can find this on X, Rep Chip Roy, or just search up Chip Roy if you don't already follow him. We were told we can save maybe $300 billion. House conservatives secured $1.6 trillion in legitimate savings. We were told we cannot touch Medicaid. House conservatives secured over $1 trillion in Medicaid and Obamacare reforms, established work requirements, and nearly returned Medicaid to pre-Biden spending levels. So that is a good thing. And here's part two. We were told we cannot touch SNAP/food stamps. House conservatives secured over $100 billion in savings, ensuring it goes to citizens over illegal aliens. And if you guys watched any of the coverage on the debates and the amendments on this, the Democrats, this was yesterday, they all came up and like tried to get this amendment or something on the SNAP food stamps things. And so they're selling it to the American people like Republicans want to cut your food stamps, but they leave out the part that they want to cut it for non-citizens. So I think this was a huge win. We were told we should temper expectations on repealing the Green New Scam. House conservatives secured the termination of 90% of the future Green New Scam projects, solidified by assurances from the president last night, saving over $500 billion. We were told we cannot do anything for health savings account. House conservatives secured their use for direct primary care, making them much more effective for hardworking Americans seeking choice in a broken healthcare system. The swamp in Congress and on K Street tried to stop the president and those of us fighting to deliver substantial spending reductions and reforms at each and every step of the way. We won fights they said we would not win. So that's a great, I think that's, these are good wins. The bill still adds, I forget how many trillion, I forget what the number is, to our debt, which is unfortunate. One of the things that I am really thrilled about is that they defunded Planned Parenthood. So $500 million will not go to Planned Parenthood for the killing of unborn humans and for so-called gender affirming care. So I think that's a huge win. I think it's only for 1 year, but that's a really big win. And when you think about that with the SCOTUS decision on, I forget what it's called, but it was something and Planned Parenthood. I think it's South Carolina against Planned Parenthood because South Carolina wants to defund Planned Parenthood for their state Medicaid. And the state won that ruling from SCOTUS, which is a huge thing because then other red states like Florida, there's already a call to defund Planned Parenthood in Florida so that we're not using it for Medicaid. So these are the Planned Parenthood one, I think, is a huge blow. And that's what I was referring to. Hakeem Jeffries was talking about Planned Parenthood, and he was saying that it's primarily for cancer screenings. And so that's the message that they send to the American people, that now women won't be able to have these cancer screenings from Planned Parenthood. I would be curious, and I'll probably go down the rabbit hole and look this up because I'm curious what the percentage of their, I think the abortions are the largest percentage of what they do, surgical abortions plus the abortion pill. I think the abortion pill is probably their number one thing that they do. Second, maybe to like the gender denying care. I'd be curious what percentage the cancer screenings actually make up for what they actually do. But it again, like they're great with their messaging. I think that, cancer screenings are not a major part of what Planned Parenthood does, but I think they probably effectively made the American people think that that's what the Republicans were cutting rather than the killing of unborn children. Hey there, Silvermine. Great to see you. Thanks for the comment. Yeah. I think I mentioned it last week in our live stream, but YouTube is really throttling us hard after the video that I posted with the pro-life doc. That video it has like less than 200 views, and it's been up for over a week now. But that's really low for our videos. And then I've noticed like every video that we post since then is not getting the engagement. So I think they really throttled us. Our content isn't really YouTube friendly. So anyway, okay, so that's the one big beautiful bill. In general, I'm not in favor of the increased debt. I don't know what the answer to it is. I think it was bound to pass, and I guess we'll see. The no tax on tips things, I think that got added as well, but there's like it only to a certain point, and then you're not, once you hit a certain limit, like 12,000 or something, then you get taxed on that. I'm not really sure, so I won't go into the details because I don't know specifically what they are. But if that's something that you are concerned about, you might want to go look into that, because I know it did get passed, but I don't know the exact details of that. Yes, YouTube does throttle all conservative content for the most part. I was going to talk about some of the SCOTUS rulings and kind of just go through them quickly and what they mean, because there's a lot of misunderstanding. People think that, the ruling in a case affects the entire country when, it could be just that state or that school or something like that. But I reached out to my buddy Bill Kirk over at Washington Gun Law. He's my resident lawyer that I ask on these types of things, because even though it's not a gun law thing, he is a lawyer, so he knows all the legalese that's involved in this and what it means. And since it's not in his lane, he's not covering it on his own channel. So I asked him if he would come on, if he would do a video with me about some of the cases that are really important to our audience and some that we've been watching. And so he and I are going to record on Monday. So I'll have that video posted on Monday or Tuesday, but he's going to explain like, okay, here's what this ruling from SCOTUS means. Like, let's take the Scrimeti case in Tennessee. where they ruled in favor of Tennessee's ban on so-called gender affirming care. What does that mean for Tennessee? What could that mean for other states that have similar laws or would like to have similar laws? So look for that next week if you're not already subscribed to the channel, because that way you'll get notified when that video gets posted live. It won't be a live stream, but when it goes live on the channel. So let's head over to hate crime. Washington State's hate crime hotline went live on Tuesday, July 1st. This is an issue that I have been working on since I was still living in Washington State. The bill, which was Senate Bill 5427, was dropped in 2023. So the first hearings were during the 2023 session, and I testified on that bill, I think twice in 2023. And then because Washington is a biennium, the bill didn't get passed in 2023, and so it automatically carries over into 2024. You've probably seen people, Republicans, the Republican Party or the House Republicans in Washington posting about bills that died this year. What you need to know is they didn't truly die. They will be resurrected at the beginning of the 2026 session. And many of the bills that are, kind of the worst of the worst that we were tracking this year will get carried over and will likely pass in 2026. So if there was a bad bill that you were watching this year in Washington State and you're celebrating because it died, please be vigilant. One of the things that we have done in the first year of a biennium is during the summer and what I call the off season of the legislative session, we would work on messaging for some of the worst bills that we thought were going to get passed in the next, in the second year of the biennium. So I would encourage you to do that. Like, look at some of the bills that you might have been concerned about this year in Washington State and be ready when those come back to fight those really hard. One of the ones is, I think it's Senate Bill 5068, and that would allow non-citizens to be police officers. I think that's one that they're going to come back to as well. And that one had complete bipartisan support in the Senate. It was passed unanimously in the Senate. So again, remember how I said the Republicans go along with the Democrats on a lot of these policies? That is a case to which I was referring that I saw in 2023. So 5427, though, it started in 2023, was passed in 2024, and I believe only one Republican voted for this, and it was Senator Ron Mazzal. He is in Legislative District 10, which is up in the Whidbey Island, Oak Harbor area of Washington State. He votes bad frequently. Oh, sorry. Circling back, Mary said cancer screenings accounted for only 5% of the services at Planned Parenthood. Thanks, Mary. I appreciate that. So the hate crime hotline went live on July 1st, and I've done so many deep dives on hate crimes in not just in Washington, but across the country and at a federal level. It was just a topic that really concerns me. I think that more people need to be aware of these. They've been going around for a long time, and Washington State's hate crime hotline received $1.125 million from the United States Department of Justice in September of 2024 as a grant for their hate crime hotline. When I was preparing to do this video, I went back and looked at some of the links from the original Substack that I posted on this, and most of them are gone. They've been scrubbed. So I would say that since the Trump administration has come in, they have taken those grants off of the hate crimes area of the DOJ website, but it is still something to watch. And I think if we were to get a Democrat president, you would see that those pages go back up. I don't know if they were there during the first Trump administration. And fortunately, I got some screenshots, which I will show you here in a minute. One of the things I want people to understand, last week we talked about the Georgia kids that had vandalized some pride flags, and they may be charged with a hate crime for that. I did look that up before I came on live, and there's no update on that. So they have not, from what I could tell, they haven't been charged with a hate crime as of today. But even in red states, they have these hate crime laws. And so with Washington's Senate Bill 5427, which is now live it's a pilot. So it's in 3 counties, Spokane, Clark, and King County. So they kind of were strategic about making sure they had one in Eastern Washington, one in Western Washington, and one down in Southwest Washington. And they'll run the pilot until January 1 of 2027, when it will go statewide. There are a lot of concerns with this hate crime hotline. So let's kind of walk through it. But first, I want to show you the money. So here is from the 2024 budget, and this is also in Washington's 2025 budget. They allocated $743,000 from the general fund for this hate crime hotline. If you've been watching, there's been a lot of news in Washington about a health center for babies who are born addicted to drugs that is having to close because Bob Ferguson vetoed that line item from the budget. I don't think it was a lot. I think it was like $100,000 or something like that. So you have where we can't fund $100,000, but we've got $743,000 to put towards this hate crime hotline. Now let's add that to the $1.125 million from the Department of Justice, and you've got almost $2 million in funding for the hate crimes hotline, just for the pilot. And so let's look at what this does. I want to show you the grant really quick. So this was awarded, like I said, in 2024. The Washington State Attorney General's office seeks funding to increase the identification and reporting of hate crimes and bias incidents in Washington State. This funding will allow the Attorney General's office to partner and engage with those most affected by hate crimes and bias incidents, and develop resources and tools to identify and report hate crimes and bias incidents. Who is most affected by these hate crimes and bias incidents? Well, in the press release that came out of Washington Attorney General Nick Brown's office on July 1st, there was a quote from Catalina Velasquez, who is the executive director of the Washington Immigrant Solidarity Network. She said, "When immigrant families in my network face verbal harassment, that makes them afraid to send their children to school. When transgender people of color experience daily microaggressions that chip away at their humanity, when our elders are told to go back where they came from, these are acts of violence that shape our material conditions and our ability to exist safely in the world. The hotline creates space for these experiences to be documented, believed, and responded to with culturally competent, trauma-informed care." I want to break this down for a minute. Let's start at the top with the immigrant families. So this hate crime hotline is to protect immigrant families who probably aren't in Washington legally, or aren't in America legally, because anybody can be in Washington according to Washington state laws. So we're going to protect illegal immigrants from the American people. If they feel afraid, if they feel verbally harassed, they can call and report on this hotline. Transgender people experience daily microaggressions. What does that even mean? What is a microaggression? If somebody makes fun of you, I mean, I'm a Gen Xer. People in school made fun of each other, and we didn't get to report it as a hate crime. It was sticks and stones may break my bones, kind of thing. We shook it off. You didn't report it to a hotline. You might report it to the teacher if it was really bad, but usually you just suck it up and let it roll off your back and carry on and ignore it, right? If you ignore it, they'll go away. they're calling these acts of violence. If you tell an elder to go back where they came from, that is an act of violence. Like, this person is on the hate crimes task force. I think she might also be on the domestic extremism and mass violence task force as well. Calling this violence to say something that's offensive, while it's not right to say offensive things, uh, it's also not violence. I think we're really getting into dangerous territory here. We're saying that words that we don't like are acts of violence. Um, Now, with responded to with culturally competent trauma informed care, this culturally competent language is something that we are seeing in education policy a lot. They want the children to be culturally competent. What does that mean? Your guess is as good as mine. That means that they're on board with whatever garbage this stuff is, and that they are, going along with whatever the radical left says is the thing. So this is very scary. This was in the, like I said, this was in the press release that Attorney General Nick Brown put out. So let's take a look at. So hate crimes are crimes, but a bias incident isn't a crime. So, what is a bias incident? A bias incident is a hostile expression of animus towards another person based on the other person's actual or perceived race, color, creed, religion, ancestry, national origin, citizenship, or immigration status, sex, honorably discharged veteran or military status, sexual orientation, or the presence of any sensory, mental, or physical disability, or the use of a trained dog, guide, or service animal by a person with a disability. Who did they not cover in that? Those straight white people, I guess. The list of characteristics include the characteristics under Washington's hate crime laws and the protected classes under the Washington Law Against Discrimination. Hostile expression of animus means expressing an opinion of hate or bias in a rude, unfriendly, some of this is so laughable. Like, how did we get here? Or aggressive manner. A bias incident is an incident that does not rise to the level of a crime or criminal act. Examples of bias include, but are not limited to, using insulting language towards someone else based on their perceived characteristics or protected class. Now, this word perceived, and I use that every time I testified against this bill, because when everything is based on perception, we all perceive things differently. And so how can you make laws based on someone's perception? Whose perception are we making the law on? And one of the things to know with these hate crimes in Washington, the people that would be deciding if a hate crime has occurred is someone who has the same lived experience as the victim. So it's not just a random, jury of peers. It is specifically someone, so if we're talking about a transgender person, they would need to make sure that a transgender person was going to decide if this was indeed a crime. Other incidents of bias are creating racial or insulting images or drawings based on someone's perceived characteristics or protected class. And Washington State did just make changes to their protected class this year, mocking someone with a disability or someone's cultural norms or practices. I bet they're just waiting for Donald Trump to come into the state and mock people. Like, he'd be guilty of bias incidents pretty much anytime he tweets. This is really, really concerning. Now, with this hate crime hotline, you can go on to, I'm trying to see if I have it here. Yeah. You can call this number, or you can go on to the Attorney General's website, and if you click that blue box is a button, you can click it, and there's a form that you can fill out. It's a non-emergency line. It's 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. They're not collecting your personal data. They're not going to collect the data of the offender, whoever hate crimed you. So, what are they doing with this? Supposedly, they are using this to provide resources to people who have been victims of hate crimes or biased incidents. So, if someone mocked you, you could call the hotline and they're going to give you some resources to help you through this difficult time. We're really creating a society of victims. We're really encouraging people to be victims, which is really unfortunate. And we're seeing a whole generation of this. So there's, like I said, there's no collection of your personal data or the offender's data. Now, if it's a crime, if it rises to the level of hate crime, then it would be referred to the police for further investigation. This is really a slippery slope because what you're going to see, especially in a state like Washington, is people who disagree with you. If you say something like, abortion is murder of an unborn child, they may take issue with that. They may find that to be, a bias incident. If especially, let's say it was someone who just had an abortion, and I said, "Well, you just murdered your unborn child." Is that a bias incident? Is that a hate crime? And so we have a huge issue here with the First Amendment. And I think one of the things I've noticed as I've gone down these rabbit holes with legislation in Washington, especially, is these really start to creep along and they build on policies, right? So where we are now is we've gotten here based on like 20 years. These hate crime laws go back 20 plus years. It's not new. So we've taken some time to get here. So they're going to keep inching it forward. And I think that it's really starting to accelerate and get there faster into a really bad place where I think that people are going to have pretty serious legal repercussions if they say or do things that people don't agree with, whether it's politically motivated or religion or I think the gender and sexual, excuse me, something in my eye. I think the gender and sexual identity and orientation stuff is really going to be a big piece of it in Washington state. I wanted to show you also just kind of, I talk about the left coast. They're all kind of in lockstep with each other. So this is actually from Oregon's Attorney General's website on reporting a hate crime or a bias incident. California has something similar. You call 211, and they've had theirs since 2020. So Washington's a little bit behind. So Washington's really trying to catch up. But you can see here, examples could include name calling, using degrading language. I mean, that happens all the time. It happens on social media all the time. So this is really going somewhere that is very dangerous. And, could it be used in your workplace? Could it be used against you in your job? Like, could you be at risk of losing your job? I think these are some scary things to consider. And like I said last week, please talk to your children about this, especially teenagers, because teenagers will say things flippantly. And especially if you have conservative teenagers, let them know, if you live in one of these states, let them know that they really need to be careful on these things, because you don't want to risk them getting in trouble for something like this in a state like Washington. It would really be, unfortunately, it's unconstitutional, and the justice system is very corrupt and captured in Washington state. So you really want to protect your family from any kind of like political lawfare and retaliation from people on the left in Washington state. So I did a Substack on my personal Substack, digging into this. I think it was last fall. So if you want to read more about kind of my biggest thing was wanting to tie it all back to the Department of Justice at a federal level, because I don't think most people really understand that this is a federal thing as well. And hopefully, and as I said, I think the Trump administration is already trying to nip this. Like I said, it's not on the hate crime website is still there, but you can't apply for grants. You can't even see the grants that have been given out. So my guess is that they have put a stop to the grant. Hopefully that was part of the Doge thing, but they are gone. So that is a good thing. And hopefully we will see that continue with the Trump administration, and hopefully it won't be brought back in the future. But these are exactly why citizens need to be engaged and speaking out. And I am certain in Washington, you are going to see more legislation for hate crimes. That's the entire point of the hate crime hotline, so that they can take recommendations for all of the calls that they're getting in and write more legislation for hate crime laws based on the kinds of calls that come in. So I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to call and we're going to flood the lines. And I mean, you could, that's definitely a strategy, but I think what they're going to do is they're going to use the people on the left that utilize this hotline. They're going to take that content, those reports, and submit them to the legislature for expanding on hate crime laws in Washington state. And I think, California has a pending legislation that would create a task force to do a media campaign. These would go out like on social media, on radio ads, TV commercials. And this task force would be putting together the content that's going to go out on these advertisements and social media campaigns. And they would be exempted from the Public Records Act. So all of the information would be private. That's terrible law. So that would be expanding Washington's hate crime law. And you can absolutely bet that if California passes something like that, that Washington will be next in line, because that's totally what they do up and down the West Coast. So I hope that this hate crime stuff is helpful to you guys. Please do share it. I'll probably try to take this segment and make its own video out of it, just because I think this issue is something that's really important. That is a great question. How does a company handbook square the circle of discrimination? Mary, let's tag Julie. It is a great question. And I don't, my company has a handbook, has a section on discrimination. It's a circle. So if I say the gay flag violates my deeply held religious beliefs, but at the same time, they cover everything. I'm not sure I'm getting what you're putting down there, TZ, but I know that some of these big companies have really interesting discrimination, anti-harassment, DEI policies. And if you happen to misstep, they put you through sort of re-education camp, if you will. And I think that's probably, if you violated whatever your company's policy is, they put you through some re-education program. And then I think probably the next time that you did it, it would be grounds for termination. Depending on the company. Yeah, can't get it spelled out correct. I hear you. Hopefully I kind of addressed it. Anyway, so that's kind of what I had on my agenda today. You guys have been awesome. I'm going to put our donate link. If you want to support the work that we are doing, we are truly a grassroots organization trying to educate and engage citizens to take action in their local government, really understand the issues that are happening at a state level and sometimes even a federal level. But it's really important that citizens get engaged, and we are completely independent. We are not affiliated with any party. We do not have any big mega donors. It's hard to get those people if you are marching to the beat of your own drum. They usually have an agenda that they want you on board with, and we just don't want to do that. So we are completely supported by people like you. Small dollar donations, $10 a month helps us a ton. We really appreciate all of our supporters. It helps us be able to do what we do. You can also, I think there's like a give thanks button below the video on YouTube. You can click that. That's super helpful as well. We just appreciate you guys. We will continue to bring you content like this, and it's not, of course, it's not unbiased. We very much have our opinions, but we are not speaking for anybody else. We are not towing a line for anybody. We are completely independent thinkers, and we really enjoy what we do, and we really like being able to sort of just make it make sense to all of you guys. So thanks so much for joining today. You guys were awesome. I hope you have a fabulous Independence Day weekend. I really love the 4th of July. It just makes me feel very patriotic, and I'm wearing my USA tank top today. And after I get off here, my neighbor put all these little American flags. We both have corner lots, and she put all these American flags out around her, lining her lot. And so I have to go out, and I saw her doing that yesterday. So I got on Amazon and ordered a bunch of American flags from China, and I'm going to go put them out on my grass as well, because I don't know where I could have gotten them from. Some American made that would have been delivered today, and she just did it yesterday. So I had a quick turnaround. So don't hate. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great 4th of July. I will be back live next Thursday. What'll that be? I don't know what next Thursday is, but I will be back next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. I hope you all have a fabulous 4th of July, and I look forward to seeing you next week.